Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. I typically save Ben Domenech for Fridays because the editor-at-large at The Spectator, the Fox News contributor, and most important of all, the host of the Big Ben podcast, is usually great for a week in review. But he can't do tomorrow, so I said, come in today, and sometimes it's better to be lucky than smart. And we're lucky because Ben will have a good hot take on Stephen Smith's deranged take in just a moment. Ben, I got to say, though, I thought the Big Ben interview with Katie Herzog is a reveal for people my age. I had no idea about drinking and COVID and the demo and how, I mean, literally not on my radar, had never heard of it before. That was a fabulous interview.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so glad to hear that, Hugh, and I hope I hope that others felt that same way. It's absolutely something that has dominated the conversation among younger people who had to navigate COVID in, often very private and, unfortunately, sort of disaggregated terms where they were not able to see friends. And one of the big things that came out of that was a much higher level of use of drinking and drugs, particularly alcohol use, that led people into a position where folks who had been, just social drinkers or something like that ended up drinking alone and spending a lot of time alone in a way that was unhealthy. And I think Katie's book is really well-timed to help people out of that kind of scenario, or people who, didn't have maybe family to lean on or friends close to buy. And she has her own, theories about that people can hear on the show and read in her book. But it's something that is, I think, of deep importance, and it's one of the big motivators why people have probably seen the explosion of non-alcoholic beer and other things that are available to people now. It's because of market demand from people who basically wanted to reset after the loneliness of COVID maybe put them in some bad habits.
I'm not a drinker. I'm rarely ever seen with a drink in my hand other than a non-alcoholic beer or a single malt scotch, and that's very rare. I have no capacity for liquor. But I had no idea about Beltway culture and liquor like you discussed. It was just a fabulous interview. I suggest to everyone who thinks they have a drinking problem or has someone in their family who's younger, in the younger demo, 18 to 40, to listen to this interview. I also got to say, Lucas Tomlinson was fabulous. Now, I know Lucas, and I know he's fabulous, but that was quite the reveal as well. I don't know what he meant about pretty soon we're going to see people with blue badges running around Gaza. I hope he didn't mean UN people, but he was just interesting on tomahawks. I had no idea about tomahawks. Did you?
That tomahawk, well, no, because, in fact, by the way, I had prefaced it to him by saying, hey, I want to talk about what this thing is actually really going on there. And he said, well, I think I got a fact check for you. And I said, save it for the show. And sure enough, I mean, it's like this, it's funny, Hugh, you get these things that are bandied around in the conversation in Washington, and then someone who actually knows what's going on can set things up in a way that is much more revealing about the limits of what policy could possibly achieve in that area. And I just think that, Lucas is one of the most insightful guys in the business. The thing I always say about Lucas is he is a perfect example to me of one of these guys who it's unfortunate that we only get to get his knowledge in 2-minute segments basically on Fox, because he knows a lot more. And hopefully, people will listen to it and learn something from it.
Now, he says it is a fabulous interview as well. Lucas is a straight news reporter. I don't know if they'll ever suggest he do a podcast. He could easily carry that. He could anchor. He can do whatever he wants. He's just that talented. Yeah. But it's a fabulous conversation. And I had all my notes ready to talk to you about Israel among young people, and that's going to have to wait, Ben, because I also heard you and Lucas talking about the Commanders. So you're both football junkies, and you're addicted to a bad team. Are you a gambler?
I am. In fact, if George Pickens had scored a touchdown, I got all the other touchdowns right in my. And I typically bet responsibly, but then I do one that's irresponsible. And in this case, if George Pickens he got great yards, but if he'd gotten a touchdown, then I would be talking to you $15,000 richer today.
My generation just does not get prop bets, right? We know lines, and people have been looking at lines since lines were invented by Vegas. Whenever they know the line, but During the break, Ben is going to stay with me, and we're going to talk about this. But I want your first take going into the break. I'm not going to
hear the Hugh Hewitt reaction to Uncut Gems. That's what I want.
I love the movie. I loved Uncut Gems. But I want to know what, so we can tease people into the break and keep them. Are you shocked, as I am, by this story?
I'm not shocked at all. I'm not shocked at all. I truly believe that the NBA has a very, very deep problem.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right,
yeah.
so we got lots to talk about during the break. Ben will be back on the other side. I'm not going to play the Stephen Smith clip until we're back live on the entire network, so don't go anywhere, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. So I'm back with Ben Domenech. Ben, you know how sports fans are. First thing I read through the story today is please don't involve the Cavaliers. Please don't involve the Cavaliers.
Yep. That's what. No. See, that's a good fan.
So, unfortunately, there is a game involving the Cavaliers that is mentioned that somehow is involved in the investigation, but no Cavaliers players mentioned. But what I said in my opening, go ahead.
Relief.
Yeah, big relief.
Yeah.
We're not losing Donovan Mitchell. Evan Mobley's not going to jail. But Ohio people have lived through Pete Rose, Art Schlichter, this summer Emmanuel Clase and Louis Ortiz getting benched, but not yet accused of anything, but they've been benched, so there's something very bad there. So we're kind of used to gambling scandal. This is 11 states and 4 of the families. It's so big. Why are you not shocked?
The reason I'm not shocked is because this is a cultural element of the NBA that people have been aware of for a very long time. Now, personally, I think it's ridiculous in the sense that you look back at the amounts of money involved and the people involved, and a lot of this is just like it doesn't make sense as a mathematical question, for people who have the kind of contracts that they have to participate in things that will take that contract down to zero.
Yep.
But there is a cultural element here that I think we have to recognize that is very prevalent in the NBA, and we need to keep in mind that the NBA, unlike other sports, has massive potential for this, particularly given the facts that we know all the way back from the Domenech scandal about the capability of refs to change the game, the capability of players to change the game in ways that directly affect props. And look, some of them in the past have been pretty dumb about it, which is how they got caught. This thing seems to be, breaking it open in a way that is, I think really going to be revelatory for a lot of people. But at the same time, Hugh, I will just say, this stuff, if you think that this has been going on for a long time, as I have, and by the way, as it happens, just 48 hours ago, I was having a conversation with our friend Brent Scher about this. We are both of the opinion that people have been leaning on the NBA in different ways off the court that have affected the outcome of games, affected player props, et cetera, for years.
How about the lottery? Do you think the draft lottery? Because everyone always says it's rigged.
I think it's completely rigged. I think come on. Look at what happened with the Mavs this year. Come on, okay? Now, but here's the thing. I think people are willing to tolerate that type of thing to a certain extent. A difference is, now that gambling is legal on these games, suddenly people start paying a lot more attention to what player prop bets look like. They start paying attention to a guy who doesn't look like he's trying that hard or looks like he's trying hard to do one specific thing. And that, to me, is just very revelatory. And I mean, look, it's funny in the old days how we got to listen to Al Michaels do everything but say,
Yes.
oh, well, a lot of people are happy right now.
Yeah.
But it's
the old days is what I remember. Don't go anywhere. Coming right back on the network. Don't go anywhere, America. Welcome back, America. Hugh Hewitt here with Ben Domenech, editor-at-large at The Spectator, host of the Big Ben Pod. And we had so much to talk about, got blown up by the NBA gambling story. Now, Ben, some of the audience is new, so I got to play 2 clips for them and for you. Kash Patel, followed by Stephen A. Smith on the NBA scandal. Here first is FBI Director Patel, cut number 3.
Good morning. Today we are here in New York to announce a historic arrest across a wide-sweeping criminal enterprise that envelops both the NBA and La Casa Nostra. The men and women up here standing with me represent a small portion of the leadership team that brought profound justice in an era that needed it more than any. I'll just highlight some of the details in the case and the FBI work, and then you'll hear from the others. But as you now know, individuals such as Chauncey Billups, Damon Jones, and Terry Rozier were taken into custody today, former, current NBA players and coaches. What you don't know is that this is an illegal gambling operation and sports rigging operation that spanned the course of years. The FBI led a coordinated takedown across 11 states to arrest over 30 individuals today responsible for this case, which is very much ongoing. Not only did we crack into the fraud that these perpetrators committed on the grand stage of the NBA, but we also entered and executed a system of justice against La Cosa Nostra to include the Bonanno, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchesi crime families. And you'll hear more about
Stop
those
right there,
details
Ben.
today.
You've got that. The audience gets an idea. This has been going on for years. It's very big. It involves all the traditional alleged mobster families. Ben Stephen A. Smith on ESPN earlier today says this, cut 13.
How many times, for one incident after another, have I said Trump is coming? He's coming. I'm going to say it on national television again. Bad Bunny is performing at the Super Bowl, and all of a sudden you hearing ICE is going to be there, looking to engage in mass deportations. The Super Bowl, disrupting things. Big night for the NBA. Wembanyama put on a show. That has now been smeared because we're talking about this story, okay? Remember, Trump has a long, long history connected to the world of sports.
All right, so you've heard enough, Ben Domenech. You have the floor.
Yeah, because I'm sorry. It's the idea that this is meant to disrupt. This is not the point where people are really tuning into the season. Victor Wembanyama. No, it's one of these things. It's one of these things where you see the person's frame as soon as they start talking, and it's absurd. That's just TDS that's out of control. The idea that this is somehow connected to the president's resentment of certain political opinions shared by NBA stars is absolutely ludicrous.
It gets to the WNBA eventually, but I mean, it's just absolute TDS.
No, it's crazy. And by the way, this is one of the reasons why, as effective as a communicator as Stephen A. Smith is, look, he's just not cut out for the world of politics. But one thing that I do think coming out of this that is really important is legal gambling is making people pay more attention to this stuff. And the more attention that they pay, that's good. Sunlight is good. Learning about these things is good. If it's been going on for years, as the FBI claims, as Cash Patel is saying there, then it's something that should have been caught years earlier. And if anything, the question should be, why didn't this happen under Joe Biden? Why didn't this happen under Barack Obama? Well, Stephen A. Smith doesn't want to deal with that. He just wants to turn this into some kind of race game, which is really his, it's such a lazy crutch in terms of the way that people frame this stuff. Look, I personally think that this is the beginning and not the end of this. That there's going to be more that comes out about the different behaviors of people who are involved in this league, because there's just so much corruption that gets rumored about and that gets indicated in terms of some of the drama with these teams. And there's a lot of things that don't make sense that would make sense if there was some kind of influence going on. And I think that, look, I can't wait for the episode of Pablo Torre Finds Out, where we're talking about this a lot more than we are whether the Clippers, did an underhanded deal or not.
So now let me ask you if you think the Kefauver hearings are a famous deal on organized crime in the 1950s. Is there the Kefauver hearings 2.0 coming as a result of this?
I think there is. I think that there's too much attention on this. And this is, think about the partners that the NBA has. Think about how embedded that they are within the business of ESPN and the Disney Corporation because of that. This is a major issue, and because of the different, the prominence of this story, I think that we're going to see a lot of attention brought to bear by politicians who might not otherwise have perhaps looked into this kind of thing before, but because of the financial amounts involved and because of the legal gambling involved, you're going to have a lot of parties here that are demanding answers, and I think that's only going to increase.
A couple of years ago, Ben, I got asked on short notice, obviously somebody canceled, to address the Republican Senate conference at their breakfast, and it turned into an hour and a half talking about what do we do about NIL, of which my opinion was nothing because Ohio State has first mover advantage. But now everyone is involved, and I think college colleges have to be very aware that their athletes, especially their like O linemen who aren't going to get drafted, or their point guard who is not going to get. They have a lot of incentive to make a lot of money.
I assume you saw that NCAA announcement that they're now going to be able to allowed to bet on pro games. So I mean, it's going to be one. Of
I
these
did
things.
not
Look,
see that.
Yes. I mean, look, this is opening up. It's opening up a marketplace, and you're going to see, so many other people who have skin in the game. And that makes people care about this. And it doesn't matter whether their unit is $10 or whether their unit is $1,000. But it's one of these things where the fact that people have money in the game means they're going to be paying more attention. And if this stuff comes to light, as much as it might hurt the game in the temporary sense, it will actually, I believe, be healthier in the long term than people like me who have in the past said, well, of course David Stern did something with that envelope.
Okay, last question, quick exit question. How much would you pay Michael Lewis for an advance right now on the book for this topic?
Oh my gosh! I mean, I don't. It's astronomical. How can you not feel romantic about being Michael Lewis in this moment?
In this moment, and you would say, "Oh my gosh, he will be able to understand and explain it all and lay it all out for us all in a narrative that makes sense." Every publisher in America is bidding on him right now. Ben Domenech, always a pleasure. Follow him at bdomenech on X. Read him at The Spectator. I read your article today. I had so much to talk to you about. We'll do it next Friday, Ben, because this was too much fun. Thank you, my friend. Don't go anywhere, America. I'll be right back on the Hugh Hewitt Show.